Hey guys, this is Adam Drake with the Dixie Chicken in College Station, Texas. Also, I used to be kind of a big deal, maybe sort of, kind of in some way, on Texas radio. And this is the Garrett Smith Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 24 of the podcast. Today we have Mr. Adam Drake with us. And a couple episodes ago, I had a couple of guys that we both know, Rob White and Roy May from Texas A&M. And we did a thing called the Aggie Wish List, where we took things that were not essential or helpful at all to anyone and just said, you know what? I wish we had that. It's like the want but don't need thing. And one of mine was, I wish we could promote Old Sarge like a true mascot again. And they're like,
I would love Old Sarge.
Well, I said it, and then I went to Academy in Temple, Texas this past weekend, and guess what I saw on the first T-shirt when I walked in?
Old Sarge.
I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So anything we say on this podcast could magically happen. So I think we should win the lottery, and I think a lot of things should happen.
See, you should have told me that first, because I would have written up a real nice list of stuff, man. I mean, we would have had the world going well.
Well, you can always come back on here at any time, and we'll just keep the wish magic going.
All right. I mean, as long as I'm not having to put kids down for bed, I'm always kind of game.
Well, then you can always say, I just wish you'd shut up and sleep, and then maybe they will.
Man, if it only works that way. I got an 8-year-old, and anytime you ask him to shut up, he's all, very politely ask him to shut up, of course. It's always like, yeah, but this is going to be real quick. And 20 minutes later, you're still listening about Pokemon. And there's only so much that a man can take.
I'm 32 and that happens to me. I should be instead of getting ready for work tomorrow, but I'm thinking about Pokemon.
So here's what's happening. I'm giving Kevin your phone number, and y'all can talk about Pokemon whenever. I'm just over the age of when Pokemon started to become cool. I'd already found girls. So, I missed that whole thing. And SpongeBob. So I don't get any of the memes from SpongeBob or Pokemon.
You know, the weirdest thing about SpongeBob is it's like people quote it now and make a bunch of memes about it now, but all the ones that they're quoting are from when it first came out. I'm like, dude, I was like barely getting a learner's permit on some of this, and y'all are just now quoting it. Whatever keeps me relevant.
I would like to stay relevant. I would like to be relevant, but I have figured out probably over the last 5 years that I am just too old to stay relevant. So I'm just going to continue to do what to like what I like and be that grumpy old man. I am okay with that lot in life.
For anyone that does not yet follow Adam or me on Twitter, we're just grumpy old men on Twitter. I feel like
100%.
It's kind of like TikTok. I have one, but there's like one video maybe on it. I'm not dancing.
TikTok. Your watch? Is something wrong with your watch? Talking about TikTok?
Right.
What's wrong?
Well, actually, they're talking about banning TikTok, so I'm kind of like, you know what? The better for us.
I actually saw that, and I was like, all right, cool. It's not affecting my life one way or the other. And I know people like it, and I don't want to, make fun of it too much. But again, it's just me being an old man and not really getting it,
Well, speaking of being old, let's dive back into your experiences here. So, before we get to the Dixie Chicken, you've spent a lot of good time in Texas radio. Tell me what drew you to that, and take us from when you decided that's what you wanted to do until you were in it.
Man, I'll be honest. Growing up in Southeast Texas, I grew up in Silsbee, class of 2001 Silsbee Tiger, if you want to kind of carbon date me on how old I really am. But we didn't get Texas music down there at that time, in the 90s and 2000s, unless you had a brother or a sister or a cousin or some type of family that went to school here in College Station or in Lubbock or in Austin. Like, we didn't really know what Texas music was. And so I graduated. I was working at Bennigan's. God bless Bennigan's and Rip. I miss Bennigan's every day. And a guy came in, and we started talking about sports. And he was like, "Oh, hey, I like what you know about sports. You want to come be on my sports talk show?" I was like, "Huh? Sports talk? What the hell are you talking about?" He was like, "Yeah, it's blah, blah, blah AM." I was like, AM? Like AM radio? Oh, that's still a thing? Oh, that's cool, man. That's real cool. And so I went on and guest hosted for a week with him, and they liked what I did, so they brought me on to do the country station. You know, just a little part-time radio DJ, someone who could work all the crap hours that nobody else wanted to do, and do promotions and stuff. And they were like, all right, we need somebody for our Texas music stuff, and you're going to be the guy because you're young, you know, you're kind of hip. You know, I was like, oh, cool. Nobody's ever called me hip before. Even when I was 18, 19, I wasn't hip. But they handed me 2 CDs because, again, not knowing what Texas music was, they handed me the Beer, Bait, and Ammo from Kevin Fowler.
Yes.
And the Purple album from Cross Canadian Ragweed.
Double yes.
And so I listened to those, and I was like, holy crap, this is the same type of stuff. Like, we're playing both of these on the same thing. Like, I love it because it reminded me a lot of what my dad listened to. You know, like my dad is who I got my love of music stuff from. And I mean, we literally driving from Southeast Texas, you know, like deep Southeast Texas, Beaumont to Houston for Astros games or whatever. We would listen to literally everything from ABBA to ZZ Top. I mean, and everything in between, literally everything. But he was always a country guy and a Southern rock guy. So listening to Kevin, you know, was great. And then Ragweed with their Southern rock sound was just awesome. And so that's kind of where that love started. And was that 02, 03 time. Mm-hmm. And so it was really before Texas music had found its legs to what we know today. There was really only Pat, Corey, Kevin, Jack, you know, Sleep at the Wheel was there, but they weren't sounding like those guys. And then you had Ragweed and Boland, and the first concert I ever saw was Phil Pritchett and Honey Brown together.
Oh wow!
And that was just such a shock to me, and especially getting to know Phil and Fred Andrews of Honey Brown years later. It was real cool that they were coming there and playing in front of like 150 people at Antone's or the Dixie Dance Hall in Beaumont, when they could be selling out, you know, Hurricane Harry's or the Texas Hall of Fame, or, you know, places in Waco or San Antonio or Fort Worth. But they still loved coming down because they, you know, especially in that time, man, people wanted to spread their music. They just wanted to have a great time. And I was really, I consider myself really lucky and blessed to be a part of all that stuff. And, you know, guys just getting started at that time, like the Eli Young Band, who were different from everybody else because, you know, you had the Corey Morrows, who were, you know, saying screw Nashville and whatever else. And Eli Young Band was straight up from the start. They're like, we want to be the biggest country band in the world. You know, they never claimed to want to be outlaw or anything. And I really respected that. And that's, you know, they busted their butts to really make that. And achieved a lot of success. And maybe they weren't ever the biggest band in the world, but man, they tried their hardest. And I got to say, from the first time they stepped in the studio there at KAYD in Beaumont, Texas, to today, they're still the same great guys, and I absolutely love them for that.
You know, it's interesting that the same exact 2 albums that got you onto the Texas music is exactly what got me onto it. Because
really,
yeah, growing up Canyon, Texas, just south of Amarillo, the Panhandle, when it comes to like music and things of that nature, people assume that it is the most podunk place in the world. They're like, oh, I bet y'all ride horses to school. I'm like, no. More people that I went to high school with listened to Slipknot and stuff like that than country music.
Oh.
And
well, yeah.
It was,
and Phil B, it was more Master P at that time. The SPM.
Well, I was also a 4-H kid, though, you know, so we'd have those long road trips. And even then, you know, early to mid 2000s, Nashville still, it was changing, but there was a lot of real country music still going on, even if it was getting, it was kind of like the blend of you can't really draw with a marker where it quote unquote ended and became what it is now.
Yeah.
It was a fade, but there was those 2 albums though that you mentioned. Like, I remember I used to have this old school radio that I would set a timer on and just like go to sleep listening to it. And one night some guy called into the station and he said something like, y'all probably don't know this song, but I just want to request it. And they're like, well, give us what you got. And he said, Speak of the Devil by, I think his name's Kevin Fowler. And I was almost asleep. That song played. I shot up. I was like, dude, what is this? This is great. And
that was that honky tonk sound. Yeah, I mean that honky tonk sound of Kevin, it kind of did the same to me. It just like shot me because 02, 03, about that time, I was a little disenfranchised from country because of and I know you some Shania Twain, but yeah. It wasn't my style of country or Faith Hill or Keith Urban was coming around at that time, and not that they were bad songs, but it just wasn't what I wanted from country.
Right.
And so, that shot of honky tonk, that shot of Southern rock from the Purple album, man, was just, it was night and day and really opened my eyes. And I fell in love with it hard, very fast.
Well, I think being in high school was the best time for me to discover ragweed. I mean, you just watch the video to 17. It's like it was the perfect time period. And everything was a few years later than the rest of Texas, it felt like. So even when I was getting towards the end of high school, all we had out there for Texas country was Kevin Fowler, a little bit of Pat Green, and some of the Oklahoma artists. Like we'd hear Stoney on the radio. And then we didn't really have any, like you never heard Krager or any of these other guys. And I think the song Empty Pillow that Jared Johnson and Darryl Dawkins did, I would hear that one on the radio. But other than that, it really wasn't much. So it was when I got to college in Central Texas that it was like, oh, there's a lot more people to follow.
And Darryl Dawkins, another one, man. If you want to talk about guys that just don't get their due now, Darryl Dawkins is up there. And I remember because we played him on KAYD, like not on Texas, like he was kind of a big deal in Nashville in the 90s. Like he had a couple of small things that he did that we played still because he was, still a big part of the Texas community. And I think the program director might have worked with him or something at one point. And so we played quite a bit of Darryl Dawkins, and then really getting to know his catalog once I dove headfirst into Texas music. Man, I love Darryl Dawkins.
It's interesting that, and I've heard a lot of great things about Darryl, and I love his music. You can tell he's a pretty humble guy. And one thing that's kind of on my personal list of, man, this should be my benchmark. I need to really aim to get my music famous, not because fame interests me, but because my high school is 10 minutes from my rival high school and about 20 minutes from another Amarillo high school called Tascosa. And Kevin Fowler is in the Tascosa Hall of Fame for their graduates, and Aaron Watson is in Randall High School's Hall of Fame. So I got to give Canyon somebody.
You've got some shoes to live up to there, man. I mean, because those two guys are on anybody's short list, or most people's short list at least, of Texas honky tonk Hall of Fames and Mount Rushmores.
Oh yeah. Well, I compare Aaron Watson, maybe not the Red album that he recently did, but the bulk of his work I compare to early George Strait. I mean, it's the same kind of country western sound. And so those two are definitely on up there for me. Kevin Fowler, all-time favorite. Personally, I mean, he's the one that got me into Texas country. I have a lot of memories from college and afterwards that his music had a part of. So he's one guy I need to get on the podcast eventually. I've had people say, "Oh yeah, he'll probably do it." I said, "Well, yeah, I don't doubt it. I just need to meet him." That's kind of an important step.
Is one of those guys that will probably do it because he is one of the nicest human beings, and I say that with knowing full well that the Texas music scene, the industry, and the artists are absolutely some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And it's night and day from other genres that I've dealt with, even mainstream country. Like these guys are just nice, mostly down to earth people. I mean, there's always a few knuckleheads, in any business. But I mean, Kevin was the first guy to ever remember my name after radio. Wow. And that was, or when I got to radio, and that was just the coolest thing in the world to me. And he always remembered my wife, and moving around from radio stations in Beaumont, and then went to Natchitoches, Louisiana, which sucked. Never go there. I hated every minute of there. I'm sure they're really nice, but I am that Texan guy that just did not fit in very well in their little town. And then we went to Nacogdoches, and I saw Kevin in Nacogdoches. He's like, "I was wondering where the hell you were. I didn't see you in Beaumont my last couple of times through. When did you get up here?" And it was just one of those things like I didn't tell him I was coming to the show. We didn't set up meet and greets or anything else. And so we just ended up hanging out and drinking beer and catching up. And it's been that way for 15 plus years now, man. He genuinely is one of the best people out there.
That's awesome. On radio, who are some of the people you encountered? Like what were some of the highlights for you?
Man, the two off the top of my head that really stick out was when I was at the ranch, 95.9 The Ranch in Fort Worth. We had a great time, and it was a lot of fun being on the show, Texas Music Interactive. And we basically had a camera pointed at us for 4 straight hours. Oh, wow. So not only were we doing the radio job, but we were doing live streaming before it was the popular thing to do. And so that was a lot of fun to kind of do that and play with that and really have to be on for 4 hours instead of just 2 minutes at a time, 3 times an hour. But when I was up there, I was able to do the Live at Billy Bob's intro for the Brandon Ryder and the Corey Morrow CD. And it was just one of those things that was awesome. And Brandon Ryder had Radney Foster and Walt and Tina Wilkins and somebody, I can't remember. I'm going to forget. I'm going to be upset with myself. And somebody else as guests on that album. And so here we were hanging out backstage before the show. Everybody's feeling real excited. And, there's freaking Radney Foster, the deity that he is for Texas songwriting. And there's Walt Wilkins, who's, on that same, almost at that same level. And Brandon Ryder. And I'm like, man, this is just really cool.
And then I got up there. I saw him for the first time the other day. No joke.
Who's that?
Ryder.
Man, you have missed out.
I know. And opportunity never came up, but he was in our backyard. He was right here in Belton the other night. Rob was playing bass for the band that opened, so it was like, I'm going to see him.
Was it Shep's?
Shep's backyard.
Joint?
Yeah, it was like the first I shouldn't say intermission of COVID show that there was. He was with Catherine Stredwick was open, so he's playing bass, and then Rob Smith, who plays guitar for Aubrey Bagwell, was also playing. So that it was kind of a good lineup.
And he's another one of those guys that's just so humble and down to earth, and will sit and talk with you. And he and his wife Kelly were just so great and gracious, and it was amazing to be a part of that live CD. And then the other thing that comes to mind that I was really proud of is I cannot remember the record executive, but do you remember the whole tomato incident where he called women in country music or the tomatoes to your salad? You don't really want a whole lot.
Oh my gosh, I never heard that.
Oh man, it caused such a stir, and I was angry at that because what's this 2020? I've been out of radio 4 years now, which is crazy to think about. But I there was a good 2-3 years where I thought the best songs that were coming out were all by women. I mean, Sunny Sweeney and Casey Musgraves and Miranda Lambert. And I mean, there were just so many great women putting out albums, and nobody was getting the respect. I was like, well, screw this guy. And so we put out a thing when I was at Maverick here in College Station, and we did an hour straight. Like I don't remember if it was the 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock hour of the morning show. But we did an hour straight of women, and we played Sonny and Bree Bagwell and Patsy Cline and Trisha Yearwood. And I worked really hard on that playlist of songs. I was like, you cannot tell me that this playlist anybody would complain about. Nobody is if you're a true fan of music, if you love good music, and that's what I loved about doing radio, because I really love music. And these were all great songs. As the kids would say today, they were all bangers, man.
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to about Patsy Cline Crazy, and you're going to follow it up with Miranda Lambert, something like Gunpowder and Lead? I mean, two opposite ends of the spectrums of songs, but God, they're so good. I mean, they're all-time fun, cool, great songs. And it doesn't matter if they're a woman or not. They were just that good. And we got a little publicity from that. And I just felt good for doing it for myself, because I kind of look at myself as almost kind of a feminist, I guess. I don't know. I think that that women in radio and women on tour just don't really get the respect that they deserve, because I mean, they're putting out, so many of them are putting out great stuff time after time. And
before I add to that, I'll say I had my studio producer here look it up for me on my computer. The Tennessean actually had a story, said 3 years after Tomato Gate, there are, fewer women on country radio still, but there's all these pictures of artists that they're supporting in response to Tomato Gate. I guess 3 years after it said it was a consultant who compared them to the tomatoes. That is crazy.
Yeah, they're the tomatoes and the salad. I'm like,
Keith Hill.
That's stupid. Yeah, Keith Hill. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm like, man, just play the good music. It shouldn't matter if you're playing two women back to back or whatever else. Play good music.
If you had to throw just a few names out there, and I'm sure if like anything else, you'll think of a few later when we're no longer recording, but if you had to throw like 5 or 6 names of female artists that you definitely plug, who would it be?
Sunny Sweeney, 100%. She's first off an absolute talent, and she's a sweetheart, and she has just had so much great music through the years that I don't think gets near enough respect, and she could 100% hold her own if given the opportunity on mainstream radio. Give her the chance there. Bree Bagwell, I love Bree Bagwell. She is a firecracker and dynamite, and she's just kind of got it all, and she has so much fun. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that sets her apart from maybe other girls on the Texas scene is, man, she wants to get out and go and have fun and play. And I was really sad. She played here in town on 4th of July, but we were hanging out with my in-laws in Houston. I was like, oh man, that's some crap. I
definitely go to as many of her shows as I can. She was a fun interview on here too.
Oh, she's always great to talk with. Hold on, this might be something you have to cut, because I got my tomatoes playlist that I'm pulling up right now. Tomatoes playlist. There you go. Here's one, and it's amazing to me that she has not gotten as much credit as she should. Is Ashley Monroe?
Oh yeah,
and she is so good. She had Vince Gill do a record her record. He was her producer, and she had a song on there called "Weed Instead of Roses," and she was talking about not putting it on there because she wanted to be family friendly. She wanted to make sure she could play the thing, and Vince is like, no, that's a damn good song. I'm not going to do your record if you don't put that song on there. And it was such a great song. I think Ashley Monroe is definitely one that would be just amazing, and everybody kind of needs to know her. All right, I'll give one more. Man, this is going to bite me in the butt. Aubrey Sellers. So Aubrey Sellers put out an album years ago called New City Blues, and I listened to it, and I was like, man, this girl sounds amazing. She's got a familiar voice. And then I listened to the record a little bit more and noticed that there were no acoustics on the record. Like it's all electric driven, but it's still kind of country bluesy. And then she came in for an interview, and I was reading over her bio, and then she started singing. I was like, oh crap, I know who she reminds me of, Leanne Womack. And she's like, yeah, that's my mom.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? And she goes by her dad's name, because that's her name. Leanne Womack was her stage name for the. So Aubrey didn't want to use that, so she didn't promote that. She wasn't, hey, I'm Leanne Womack's daughter. Can I come to the radio station? She wanted to push it on her own. And so Aubrey is definitely one that I've really enjoyed the things that I've heard from her, and she's just such a beautiful voice.
That's respectable. Like that's a pretty cool way to go about it. I mean, my last name's Smith. I really couldn't do anything with it anyway.
No, man. I mean, you're pretty much just like, oh yeah, which Smith are you related to? And it's like a laundry list.
Well, I was kind of hoping to benefit from it, because during that Texas Music Life poll, when on that second round or whatever, when I got thrown against Granger Smith, I was like, hey, if people do this too quickly and they just see G. Smith, maybe they'll click.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
Womp, womp, womp.
Or maybe it did work, and that was how I got a third of the vote.
hey, you know, you might have only gotten 3 votes, really.
Right.
And I'm sorry, it is what it is.
Thanks, Mom.
And I'll be honest, that was kind of the thing that wanted me to get away from radio. There was so many songs that I thought were good songs that never got anywhere. Chris Young put out a song called Neon that was amazing. It petered out, barely top 10. I'm like, then he puts out one of the catchy songs that was not as good and went to number 1. I'm like, how? I mean, really, people, how are y'all not playing the good stuff? Just play the good music. But you know, it's too corporatized and everything else. So that was kind of one of the reasons I decided, well, I might be done with this whole radio gig thing.
It's interesting you say that's kind of the reason I got out of politics, of how planned it was in advance. But I look at that, and when the whole quarantine thing started, I made a playlist on Spotify called Quarantunes, and I put all these Texas artists on there, and I was like, here's one song from each artist you should listen to. And without naming the individual, a certain Texas artist texted me and said, do I have to pay you to be on this list like all the other Texas music playlists?
Oh, man.
Like, oh. Shots
if
fired.
That's not one of the worst too, man. I remember that, where we would get sent goodies, you know, we would get sent cookies or whatever, and I'm not going to name the songs, but there were at least 5 songs that I know that went to the top of various Texas music charts that I guarantee if you go ask anybody in the state of Texas right now, if they'd heard these songs, 99.9% of them would say no.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, well, then how did this get to number 1? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, you know, he or she was just really nice when they came in the studio, so we gave them 10 extra spins. Well, did you play the song? No, not really. And I'm saying, no, man, just and even with Texas, and I got a little more hardcore with it as time went on. I just became honest, brutally honest. I was like, hey man, I appreciate your passion. This isn't very good. I'm not going to play it.
Right.
What are you talking? You know, blah 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 and blah 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 is playing. I was like, I don't care. I don't think it's very good, and I don't think my audience is going to like this as much as your mom and dad do. You know?
I always joke about, people ask me, it's like, if it's not a music person, they'll say, you know, I don't really know your following base on your podcast. What am I allowed to say? I'm like, look, it's a few country artists and my mom. So whatever they'd want to hear. But in all seriousness, that's actually why I haven't really pushed my recent releases as much. It's kind of like, I've said this on like 5 other episodes, so I'm going to bore everybody to death, but I've been in the process of re-recording all the vocals for all songs I've ever put out. Just because I mean, at the time I first put music out, I wasn't really there yet. And I think a lot of artists are in that same boat. And you just a lot of artists will delete it and then just put their new stuff out. Me, I'm like, well, I don't want to abandon the good stuff, so I'm going to actually redo it. But, you know, I've gone in the studio, spent several sessions just redoing everything. I'm like, that's what I want to push. But part of why I want to push it to radio isn't just so people can hear it. Part of it is because I kind of want to see this experiment of what makes it without somebody pushing it with money under the table. And I'm really curious.
I got to tell you, if I were a music promoter right now, I'm not putting hardly anything behind radio promotion outside of a very few select radio stations, because you look at a guy like Coetzel. Yeah. I am not. I'll be 100% honest. I'm not a Coetzel fan, but again, he's not making music for me. You know, he's not making music for a 37-year-old dad of 2 who, you know, he's making music for 20-year-old kids who love to do this. But I've heard some of his songs. Man, most of that stuff ain't making it to radio. I mean, he's got to hit that edit button pretty heavily on a lot of those songs, but he's making it work because he knows he doesn't need to be played on radio station X, Y, or Z, because he can put it on Spotify or YouTube or his Instagram stuff, and his fans are right there.
Yeah.
He reaches his fans in a heartbeat, and he's got that momentum where he can just spread the word of his music. And again, it might not be for everybody. It's not for me, but it's working for him. He's found that niche that he was able to work.
And a lot of guys are trying to duplicate it too, and it's not something that's that easy to duplicate. And I won't name any immediate names, but you can probably guess the 4 or 5 on one hand that are always pushed by the same circles and dressing the same way. Do they all start with K? With what?
There are a lot of artists I've noticed that have all started with K recently. Hold on, now I got some
K's and C's.
I got to shut the dog up. Hold on, stop, dog. Dog's outside barking to the bulldog next door. He's
awesome.
My little Dachshund thinks he's a badass and going to fight a bulldog. That ain't happen.
There are some artists I'd rather play the dogs than their songs on radio, but
yeah. And again, it's not for me. It doesn't have. I'm not talking bad about these guys.
Right.
It's just I'm in a different spot in my life and my musical choices.
Well, it's funny to me. Like when I first started putting out some songs, they weren't really even Texas country sounding. It was more like rock music with some country lyrics on it, and working on polishing a lot of those up vocally right now. But at the time, because this was about 2015, 2016, I had a few people like, I don't think people in the Texas scene are going to want a rock sound of the music. I was like, I don't know. It's me though. If no one plays it, I'm still going to go for it. Well, you fast forward 5 years, and now it's kind of like, I don't know if this is rocky enough to be with what the kids are listening to these days. I'm like, well.
It's been so funny because I remember that. Do you remember who Johnny Cooper is? Did you ever hear that name?
Yeah.
Johnny Cooper his first album sounded so much like Ragweed, but it was produced by Mike McClure, who produced all a lot of that early Ragweed stuff, and they all hung out together. And so as Johnny grew, like you said earlier, when you're doing your first album, you don't really know who you are, what you're doing. You're just kind of there. And by his second and third album, he was much more kind of Justin Timberlake sounding. And I'm like, man, this is cool. I can't play it because it doesn't really fit. But I liked that he was finding himself as an artist, and he did a lot more rocking stuff. And he'd probably, if he came out today or was doing his stuff today, he'd probably be up there on the charts and be up there like everybody else with that sound.
Yeah, it's interesting how it works. I had somebody the other day, and I won't spend too much more time on radio before I move on to the next thing, but I had somebody say, if Ragweed tried to reunite now, I don't think it would really take off like it did with our age group. And I said, actually, I think they would kind of get rediscovered. I think that's kind of the sound that would take off right now. And it'd be different, but the same. Too.
I'm on board with you. I think they would definitely get rediscovered because Cody also is an artist. He's got great lyrics, and he's one of the best guitar players I've ever seen. So I think people would be drawn to them, and it'd be kind of like, hey, Mom and Dad, have you heard these new guys, Cross Canadian Ragweed? Yeah. And you're like, no, we got that, because I remember thinking the same thing about. Bon Jovi had redone himself, in the early 2000s or so. And I remember a bunch of kids, like, hey, do you have that Bon Jovi? Do you know who that is? Know who Bon Jovi is. I think Ragweed would do really well coming back today.
Yeah. I don't put it past them because Cody Canada recently, and I quote, said, "The band will never get back together. I'll tell you that right now." Well, what do all the big bands say right before getting back together? It's never going to happen. But money talks, a lot of time. Yeah. Well, and musicians need money coming out of COVID. So, I put that in the never say never category.
Yeah, I think with anything, there are very few things I think you could really say never to. Right. And Adam Drake will never get a Florida Georgia Line tattoo. That I'm pretty rock solid on, but a few other things now.
Well, one thing I've got to touch on, speaking of coming out of things and reconstructing, the roof at the Dixie Chicken is something I'm wanting to ask about because being the man who markets them to the great public, I have to ask how the roof's doing.
The roof is fine. The roof is up, and actually today there are a bunch of new walls were going in, and hopefully we'll have Sneaky Snake back very soon. in her habitat, and we'll be open up to that side of the bar again, or restaurant again.
My follow-up was going to be how Sneaky Snake's doing, because I saw somebody post, they said, somebody posted the headline. It was like, roof collapses at Dixie Chicken Saloon. Residents worried about Sneaky Snake. And the caption was, if this isn't the most College Station headline you've ever seen in your life, I don't know what it is.
All right. So I want to give folks a background real quick before I tell you more about Sneaky. So Don Ganter, who founded the Dixie Chicken back in the 70s with his business partner Donnie Ant, Ganter was a practically a snake wrangler. I mean, wow. He would get calls from the cities of College Station and Bryan, like, Don, we got this snake out and we don't have anybody to take care of it. So he would go and get these snakes, and he would bring snakes from West Texas over to the Dixie Chicken, put them on the pool tables and mess with them. And he would have 4 or 5 rattlesnakes inside of the restaurant in a terrarium. You know, I mean, they weren't running loose or anything. And when he passed away in 2004, his daughters, who own the chicken now, said, "You know what? We'll keep one snake in memory and honor of Dad. We're not going out and getting like 4 or 5." And so Sneaky Snake has been there for quite a while. I'm trying to think. I know since at least 2009. We got a plaque up there. I can't remember what it says off the top of my head. But when the roof came down, I had more tweets come into the Dixie Chicken about if Sneaky was okay than I did if anybody got hurt. And everybody was fine. Everybody was safe. You know, our managers did a great job of getting everybody, trying to get everybody out of the building. But it just kind of came down so fast that there were people still there and, you know, filming it and whatever. But Sneaky was always fine. She was in her little cage, and as soon as the firefighters went in and were able to say it was okay to go in, they went and got her. Our snake wrangler went and got her and put her in a little temporary terrarium and went off to live in a new home for a few months.
That's incredible, and I love that the student bonfire guys showed up. That was pretty cool too.
Oh man, I cannot thank the bonfire guys enough. They did such an amazing job because the roof came down on a Wednesday and they were there on Friday and we were opened on Saturday. And without student bonfire, that's not happening. And they have always been so great to us, and we absolutely love everything those kids do. And for the friendship that they've given us for 30 years or more, man. I know that there are bonfire hats going back to the 90s. There might be some before that, but we don't have a definitive date.
Okay, when I hear 30 years, my brain still goes way before the 90s.
yeah, you think of the 80s, like, oh, yeah, 1976 was 20 years. No, it wasn't, man. No, it wasn't.
Well, see, I have to get back to the chicken and carve my name again, because I think it went, whatever that back bar is that got either moved or switched out or something. I forgot what happened.
Yeah.
My name's not there anymore, so I have to come back and do it. But
well, I mean, you can come back anytime you want. I'll even bring you a pocket knife. You can use my own.
I'll take you up on that. And just for anyone listening who may be wondering, is the Dixie Chicken still open with all the bar closures?
The Dixie Chicken is open. We are a restaurant. We are not a bar. We are a restaurant with a bar. Look at us like a Chili's of sorts.
There you go.
With a rattlesnake.
With a rattlesnake.
Yeah. You don't get those in Chili's.
I highly recommend the Freddy Burger. The shakes are pretty good. Any kind of drink you want, they got it. So I highly recommend the Freddy Burger for a starter. But I usually end up with a patty melt. I just kind of say, that grilled onions, that's all I really need for a burger. But what's your go-to? Man,
I'm a tea fries with bacon guy.
Nice.
That's generally something I always get. And depending on what time I'm getting there and how long I'm going to be there, it depends on what I'm going to eat. And how much I'm drinking for the afternoon or day or night or whatever. But sausage, cheese, and crackers is a really good, just kind of a snack that's there on the table. After a couple of pitchers, you eat it to kind of settle your stomach a little bit. It's great. Sausage, cheese, and crackers, 100% great stuff.
how did you first become involved with the Dixie Chicken as an employee? If I ask people how they become involved with the Dixie Chicken, it's usually like, well, freshman year.
Well, I was there drinking one night. So when I moved to town, I was working at Aggie 96, moving to College Station. And I knew nothing about College Station other than A&M is here and the Dixie Chicken is here. Because my dad would come up for fire school. He worked at Mobil Oil down in Beaumont. And he came up here for fire school when I was a kid. So he told me all about the Dixie Chicken when I was younger. And he passed away before we moved up here, or else he and I would probably be at the Dixie Chicken right now. But we started doing something at Alfred T. Hornback's, which was owned by Dixie Chicken Incorporated. And it's actually where our offices are now. And I went in and met with him, and we started doing a Hornback Hump Days on Wednesday nights with Jeff Spar. He's a local musician, great guy. And he would bring in artists to Alfred T. Hornback's, like Blue Edmondson, Drew Kennedy. Now, this is like 2006, 2007 Drew Kennedy. So nobody really knew who he was. And it was just so much fun to have these guys there. And so from there, I got to know the girls who own the chicken and who run the chicken. And when I was looking to get out of radio, I was like, my wife and I were talking like, well, what do you like? What do you want to do? I was like, well, I like beer. I like good country music. And she's like, you should go work for the Dixie Chicken. Oh, shoot. Actually, probably I should go work for the Dixie Chicken. And so I went up there and gave them a pitch about, social media and website and, how they could probably do better. And they're like, okay, cool. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And so I finished up at radio and came in, and it was really great because I've never been a club guy. Even when I was 18, 19, 21 years old, I was never into going to clubs and
yeah.
And the Dixie Chicken just really fit my personality. It's great music. It's friendly. Even if you're coming in wearing a burnt orange shirt with a cow with these big horns on it, we're going to treat you nice. We're going to treat you like family. Like bust you a little bit, but it's all in fun. It's all, and that's been, I got to say, that's been one of the things I love the most is seeing different fan bases come in. Clemson was amazing to have and to sit and talk with those fans for so long. And so, the chicken just kind of fit my personality. And I was lucky enough for them to say, yeah, sure. Come on in. And it's been a fun, I can't believe, we talked about this earlier today. It's been 4 years. This is, over 4 years that we've been there.
Wow. That's crazy. Cause I met you about 4 years ago. So that's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without giving away too much to the audience, one of these songs I have in my upcoming batch of songs that I'm putting in for copyright in the next couple of weeks is called Northgate Nights. And there's actually a line about, this is all fine and good, but let's head to the chicken because I need to melt the ice. So that is a line that will be in the song. And I got a little bottle cap alley for everybody in that too. So
well done.
Yeah. I'll just send that over to you.
We put out a shirt a couple of years ago for Texas Independence Day, and it's been such a great seller that we kept it. It's we call it the bucket list shirt. On the front is a Dixie Chicken logo and a Texas flag, and on the back is the state of Texas and all of these things to do with the chicken. Play 42, listen to Willie and Waylon, sing Goodnight Irene, and on there is melt ice. And the people, when they were coming in from Tennessee or Clemson for football games, would see that shirt and they would ask about it. And the guys, I would be straight up with the guys, but it's really, you're trying to be a gentleman with women who are asking that. And I'm like, well, in the men's room, in the trough area, it's just very hard to explain to a woman while trying to be, nice and PC and gentlemanly about it. But I like that. I think the girls are really going to like that, man. I appreciate that.
Well, one thing I love about the chicken is it's friendly, and like you said, other teams' fans can come in on a game day and be just fine. And it's, where other bars may have, and I never really saw this on Northgate very much, but I know it happens. in a club or in any other kind of bar, you're more likely to have fights or just people drunk and disorderly. You really just don't see it in the chicken. And in my experience, if somebody is drunk, they're usually happy. It's just kind of I mean, I'm sure there's been episodes or so, but I just think that it's a really good atmosphere for people who are just there to play some dominoes, drink a few beers, have a good time, share some stories.
It really is, man. And that's kind of thing I like about it. And being an ambassador of sorts for the chicken is man, I just like to be. I'm not a rude person. I'm not a mean person. I've got my opinions on things, and people might not like those opinions. But I'm never trying to be a jerk about things. And it's great to kind of have that voice for the Dixie Chicken on Twitter of hey, everybody just come in and let's have a great time, man. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care what color T-shirt you're wearing. Come on in, let's have a good time, and we'll break bread together. And I'll even buy the next round. It's really that kind of thing, and that's what I like about Texas A&M and the Aggies in general. Is there are a lot of tailgates that are like that too. Like you're not getting hey, screw you guys. I hate your purple and orange or whatever, purple and gold, or your orange and blue, or your crimson. I mean, man, we invited everybody when I was doing tailgates with some friends. We would sit out there with Texas beers and like, hey guys, y'all from Baton Rouge, come on over, man. We've got some turkey legs frying up right now, and this and that. Let's have a good time. Hey, we hope we beat the hell out of you today, but come on back and we'll, whatever happens at the game, we'll have a great time. And that's something that I really love, and especially after these games, and people get home and they write blogs, they write reviews, and people say that about Texas A&M, and they say how great they were treated at the Dixie Chicken. Man, that brings a lot of pride to me as an Aggie fan, me as a College Station resident who loves it here, and now as a voice of sorts to the Dixie Chicken.
You hit the nail on the head on part of what I love about being an Aggie. I mean, there's many reasons, and this is just one of many, but those blogs and everything you see, it was especially when we were new to the SEC, I saw you can't go through a season without a visitor from some other school posting a blog about it. And the grad school tailgates were the same way. We had a lot of people from Alabama, and then a lot of people from Tennessee would come in too. And they were a blast. I mean, we had a good time with all of them. It may not be the top memory. I think it's probably my top favorite memory, the Dixie Chicken. If not, it's on up there. Back in 2010, I think it was, Baylor hadn't emerged yet. Nobody knew what was about to happen with Baylor. Nobody knew we were going to leave the conference. Nobody really knew all the stuff that was about to explode. And so Baylor was playing Texas, and I don't think they'd beaten them in over 20 years. So it was the Halloween game. We had just destroyed Tech. And I go to the Chicken because it was the only way I was going to get down the road. I wanted food. Traffic was blocked. I was going in. So I go in. People are in Halloween costumes, jerseys. And Baylor and Texas were playing on the TV. And you had a Dixie Chicken shoulder to shoulder packed with Tech and A&M fans. And when Baylor scored first, everyone in there just erupted. And some lady from Tech ran up and hugged me. She's like, I don't even know who you are, and I don't care what y'all did to us today as long as Baylor wins tonight. I was like, man. And especially those RG3 years too, man, were good games against Texas. What's your personal favorite memory of the Chicken?
I gotta say it was the 42nd birthday, or I'm sorry, 45th birthday last year. The Dixie Chicken, we worked really hard to get a really good lineup. And I love Roger Krager. We talked about other guys I love, Ragweed and Kevin Fowler. I love Roger Krager. Anytime Roger Krager is in town, my wife knows not to expect me home until late. And, hopefully she doesn't have too many honeydews for me the next day, because it's just one of those nights. So we had Roger come in, and we had Dub Miller, who's another guy that I just love. If I had a concert venue, I would have Dub Miller be my monthly show. I would have one show a month with Dub Miller, and whatever guests or whatever he wanted to do, because I love his storytelling so much. And we had both those guys for the 40th anniversary too. But I mean, they're classic Aggies. Roger, of course, he doesn't have to put out new music, but every 10 years or so, and he's still such a draw. So we had them. We had Dalton Domino and Drew Kennedy and Josh Greider, who were playing together, were just amazing. And just that day was so much fun. And it was a day that I had like 2 beers the entire day, because I wanted to have fun and party and do that, but I wanted to remember everything as much as I could, and not be too, out of it to remember everything. And it was just so much fun. And Brendan Anthony, who was fiddle player for Pat Green back in Pat's big time heyday, he is now the director of Texas Music.
Wow.
Works directly under Governor Abbott and promoting Texas music, not just Texas country music, but Texas music as a whole. And he read a proclamation from Governor Abbott, and thanking the Dixie Chicken for all that we've done for music over the last 45 years. And that was just so much fun. And that really meant a lot because the Dixie Chicken is not a concert venue. I mean,
no.
So to be, I mean, we do shows there, but that was on the back porch and playing out to the crowd on the promenade. But for so many people to say they love the Dixie Chicken music and to have a proclamation means a whole lot, because we take a lot of pride in the music that we do play with the Dixie Chicken. We want to play all of our old favorites like Willie and Waylon and Merle and Johnny Cash and Hank Williams Jr. and mix that in with today's guys like William Clark Green and Cody Johnson and, Roger Krager and Doug Miller and everybody else. So that meant a lot to the owners, and Katie, she's going to get mad. I hope she's not listening to this, because I'm going to get in trouble. She was shedding a little bit of a tear when Brendan was reading that, because it just meant so much to her and carrying on her dad's legacy.
For anyone that doesn't know, if you've never been to the Dixie Chicken, the first thing you need to do when you walk in the door, other than duck, because if you're tall like me, your hair brushes the roof.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Only at the back door. The first thing you have to do when you walk in is take a moment to just listen to whatever's playing, because the playlist in that place is amazing. You'll feel like you haven't gone a day past the 1970s, and then, like you said, the next thing you know, you're listening to Krager or somebody like that. And I think my favorite example of that was one time I walked in. My dad went to A&M. I did my grad work at A&M. My dad listened to a lot of Willie Nelson, went to his shows in college, and I listened to a ton of Kevin Fowler. And I walked in, and the first 2 things I heard were a Willie Nelson song and a Kevin Fowler song back to back. And I was like, man, if that just doesn't have generational written all over it, I don't know what does.
And that's one of those things that's a lot of fun. And that's one of the things that we, again, we really pride ourselves on, because we want to make those Aggies who came to Dixie Chicken in the 70s and 80s to feel just as at home. We haven't changed a lot. I mean, obviously things are changing with the new, having to do some construction from the roof collapse, but, still most of the same stuff is on the walls. We're still serving the same types of beers, and things will grow, but not really change. We started serving liquor in, I think it was 2014. And, that riled people up because, Dixie Chicken didn't have liquor back in the 70s. Well, I mean, you've got to grow as a business.
Yeah.
But at the heart of the Dixie Chicken, it's always really stayed the same for the past 45 years. And that's very deliberate. That's very much well thought out.
Well, you got some guys like me that don't like beer but love to go to the Chicken. There's a little something for me now.
Yeah. And that was kind of the argument too. Like, well, why should my wife have to go somewhere else? She's a whiskey girl. I'm a beer guy.
Yeah.
So why should she have to go somewhere else? I don't want to leave if I'm sitting here, talking with friends and laughing and everything else. So it's a really good change, I think.
Well, before I move on to the finale of this thing, I'm going to throw a couple of marketing freebies at you.
Okay.
The first is on the episode with Roy and Rob, we did not touch the bevel because, as Roy said, you will get more heated than politics with that. And I said, I'm going to save it for the Adam Drake episode because you and I are pro bevel.
So here's the funniest thing about this whole argument is I know it pisses off Rob. And that's really the most fun I have with it. I don't mind the bevel. Like, to me, the bevel it doesn't look bad. And I understand people's arguments. Well, if the T is beveled, the A and the M need to be beveled as well. I don't care. I like the dimension that it gives the T. But I love pushing the buttons of the people who were just so anti-bevel.
Oh, I know.
That at first I was kind of indifferent. Now I'm just kind of like, nah, screw it. I like the bevel.
Like, if the design was bad, I wouldn't like it, but the design's really good, so I'm kind of like, it works. And it's the opposite of my undergrad. My undergrad school was like, hey, we're coming out with a new logo, like back in 2013 or something like that. So they unveil this cool looking polished up logo, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But then they completely got rid of all old logos, and they don't even sell them on vintage attire or anything. I mean, they completely replaced it. And so now there's nothing but this replacement logo. And I'm like, okay, there's nothing wrong with the logo, but you completely erased everything from my era. Whereas A&M, they've got this nice, it's not even new anymore, this beveled logo, but it's not like they're replacing the old one. I mean, when you watch a football game, we've still got the block letters on the helmet. We've still got other stuff. And, I mean, they did it the smart way, unlike the seal.
I'm not even getting that hornet's nest.
I'll save that one for another guest.
The only thing that I would probably change when it comes to the logo and stuff is that Texas silhouette logo. I would put that on everything. That would be on midfield. That would be on helmets. That would be everywhere because that just looks so cool. And you can take that and say, well, we are Texas in the SEC. Right. Look here, and just have that big and bright. I think that's really the only logo thing that I would change. But I mean, I'm not in charge of that. So.
Well, great minds think alike. 'Cause, I was never that big on that logo until we were in the SEC, and I was like, hey, we are the Lone Star team in this conference, own it. But the other marketing idea I had was actually a couple minutes ago. You should have a Domino's contest at the Chicken, and Dalton Domino should play at it.
Ha! I mean, we could give Dalton a call. I mean, he's game for coming down, man. He had so much fun, and again, he's one of those Texas Tech guys, and so I was kind of wondering how he would take it, and he came in, and he can kind of be abrasive on Twitter.
Yeah.
But he is such a great guy. I really enjoyed sitting and talking and hanging out with him before his set. And he just looked out over the hundreds of people that we had there on the promenade that day before Krager's set and was just like, man, this is just so cool, man. I love this about Aggies. I love this about Texas A&M and the Dixie Chicken. He's like, you don't really get this in Lubbock. I was like, what do you mean, man? Lubbock is... and I hate saying this, Lubbock is a mecca of Texas music right now.
Oh yeah,
and really has been for 30 years. I mean, Pat and Corey, and before them it was going too. But he's like, no, man, this just has such an energy to it, man. These people are going to listen to Roger Krager. I mean, they are going to eat up everything he does. And I was like, man, I like this. I appreciate him saying that. So that felt good. So I think if we called Dalton, right now, he'd be game to come and hang out for a domino tournament.
So my big three, I have a big three finale that I ask everybody, but usually it's the same three questions because most of the people I talk to are musicians. But for you, it's a little different. The first one is, what's the funniest or craziest thing that ever happened or story you have from the Dixie Chicken? And the second one I'm going to ask is, what's the funniest or craziest thing you can tell me from your radio career?
Funniest at the Dixie Chicken. So Aaron Watson was playing. It was called Boulevard 217 back in the day.
Oh yeah,
it's Shiner Park now. But Aaron Watson was getting ready to play, so me and a friend of mine who did middays for the radio station at the time, Karina, she's now kicking ass in San Francisco on a morning show out there. So Karina, good job for you. We were sitting there and we were drinking our beers, and it happened to be ring day weekend. And this young lady, you could tell she was with her family. And this again before I was working there. I was just a guy who liked to drink beer there. And the girl was drinking out of a chugger for her ring. And I don't know if this was the first time she'd ever had a beer or a chugger, but it took her about 25 minutes to get it down. And once she had like that last 2 or 3 swallows, you could tell she was just determined to get it. And I'm assuming it was her mom, dad, and brother. Her mom was sitting directly to the right of her, and as she takes that last little swig, Karina's turned around watching at this point. I'm like, hey, check this out. Old girl just throws up in her hands. And I'm like, oh, honey, oh, God, oh, poor thing. And so she and her mom run off to the bathroom and, enjoy it. I mean, I'm just sitting there. That is always stuck in my mind. And it's just so funny. And I hope she's okay. I hope that, if she doesn't like beer, she never has to drink it again. But that was something I just remember. And will always remember. And will always tell that story.
I'm staring. I actually have my picture from mine on my desk as you're telling me this story.
As far as funny from radio career, it was it's another Roger Crager memory, and we were at Lake Bryan, and they were finishing up Zeeg Fest, and it was a huge show. Kevin Fowler played, Eli Young Band played, and I mean, I don't remember who all else was there. Blue October, I think, might have been there for a rock band. And we were sitting at the Hook. It was called the Hook at the time. It's Lakeside Ice House or something now. It was me, Kevin, and Roger all at a table, and it had to be 1:00 in the morning. The stage was getting broken down. The buses were starting to pull out, and we're watching them go through. And Roger looks up all of a sudden. He's like, "Oh man, I think that's my bus," and jumps. Oh, I mean, like jumps up out of the seat, jumps over the fence, and just takes off running for this bus. And Kevin and I are sitting there like, well, I'll be damned. I mean, I didn't think Roger had that kind of speed on him, especially in boots, after as much beer as we sat here and drank. And the cell service was so bad up there that we kept trying to call him and not get an answer. Like, it just kept going beep, 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 beep. I was like, well, hell, we'll find out tomorrow morning. And it turned out it was Eli Young Band's bus. And Roger was just hauled ass for no reason, and his guys were looking for him. We're like, well, I don't know. He went that way, guys. There's really only one way in and out of this thing. So that was real funny.
I like that. So that place is operating again as a new venue?
I don't know. I don't know what they've done. Last year they were Lakeside Ice House, and then they changed ownership or whoever was serving out there, and I don't know if they've been open during COVID. So I don't know what's going on right there.
It's that's the same venue. I told somebody on a previous episode the song "Just One Look" that I had in the Texas Music Life Twitter poll recently. That song was actually written on my phone. I hate when people are on their phones during concerts, but when one hits you, you got to write it down. I actually wrote that song on my phone at a Cody Canada concert at that same stage.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool, man.
So,
I like that place, man.
Sorry, Cody.
Overlooking the water while the guy's on stage and everything. It's a lot of fun.
Well, second big question would be, if you had to have a music festival sponsored by the Dixie Chicken and you had to pick a lineup of Aggie artists, just a handful, who would you throw on there off the top of your head?
Man, you're going to have to give me a number, or else I'll just list everybody I can think of.
First 5 that pop in your head, because there's like a 60.
First 5, man. I feel like a Crager fanboy, but I'm gonna throw Roger and Dub Miller on there. Robert O'Keen and Lyle Lovett, for those of you who aren't wonder who the hell I'm talking about.
Those are kind of package items, so I'll give you 3 more.
Oh God, no! Don't give me 3 more. Now I'm on the spot. Oh shoot, man. So you should have told me this before. I'd have been prepared.
Well, I just thought of it off the top of my head.
Let me see. I mean, Rich O'Toole would be a lot of fun. I'm gonna throw Rich on there.
I had him on a previous episode, and I think he mentioned playing the Dixie Chicken, like doing acoustic stuff in college.
It was we were his very first paid gig.
Yeah.
And you can actually find that story online at dixiechicken.com/stories. Just look for the picture of Rich O'Toole. Cheap plug. And
it's okay. We've name dropped everyone at this point. I'm going to go ahead and name drop Stephen James. Oh, yeah! Because I haven't played a soundbite in a while.
So do they have to have graduated here? Or just time here? Because they're
spent time.
Because Casey Donahue actually he learned to play guitar while at Texas A&M, and then he left when he realized that he could probably spend a lot less money and go to UNT and play music, or maybe not UNT, maybe it's UTSA or wherever he went up in North Texas. But yeah, I think that'd be a fun little concert, and I'm going to get some phone calls or tweets or something of people who were pissed off that, hey, how come I ain't there? You know,
Jamie Lynn Wilson will tweet you.
Oh God, yes, yes, hell yes, let's have Jamie Lynn Wilson. And then I'm going to go ahead and call it an Aggie show, because this guy's drummer is an Aggie, and he's got two band members that live here, and the co-headliner with Robert and Lyle would be Cody Johnson. So,
oh man,
yeah,
you're going to need the whole drill field.
Yeah, because Miles Stone, his drummer, is an Aggie, and then his bass player and fiddle player both live here in town, so it's close enough. I'm counting it.
It works, and this is after my grand finale question, so I guess this is the grand finale. We didn't even touch on the MCU. I just want to know, which movies do you want to see? Because I have not met one person that even knows who Shang-Chi is.
Oh man, I'm really excited for Black Widow. I'll be honest. That's gonna be a lot of fun, I think. I look forward to Shang-Chi if they can also still kind of work in that Netflix Iron Fist stuff, because I'm one of the few that actually kind of enjoyed the Iron Fist. And I like that kid, the guy that was in the show. I think that'll be a good one. What else is coming out? The Eternals. Angelina Jolie's going to be in that. That should be good. But I think the thing that I'm most looking forward to, Marvel Cinematic Universe, is WandaVision.
Oh yeah,
and it's coming out on Disney Plus. I've been waiting. I think I'm the only one in my house. I've got 2 kids, and I watch Disney Plus more than anybody here. But that show, that series just looks so good, and I'm such a fan of the Avengers Disassembled story arc and the House of M story arc in the comics that I'm wondering if they're working either of those into that, and that's probably too heady. Like, people are probably like, "What the hell are you talking about, nerd?" But those are just like 2 really well written story arcs that Marvel did, and I think they're working that in somehow, some way into this WandaVision show, which I also think ends up setting up a Young Avengers storyline, because if you go back and watch that trailer, there's like a quick blink and you'll miss it of them with babies, like they have twins. And their kids grow up to be Young Avengers. So anyway, dude, we could do a whole nerd out episode. Well, so I don't want to go too hard right now.
We'll set that as the potential spin-off episode for the Adam Drake return. The only thing I'll add to it here is I hope that even if they have to incorporate Disney Plus, I hope they do it to where you can still own DVDs of all you need to see. I don't like how they're talking about you have to watch the TV show to know what's going on in this movie and that kind of stuff. I was like, no, I like to have a physical collection of stuff, but it's a minor petty detail. All I want is a good Fantastic Four movie in the MCU.
I do too, but I want them to wait a little bit. I want them to start laying the seeds like they did with Thanos. Uh-huh. So I want like Dr. Doom to show up like at the end of one of these, like hi, I'm Victor, weird Eastern European accent, Victor Von Doom. And like you see his minions and stuff, you're like, oh snap! And then 2 years later, you'll get the Fantastic Four movie with him as the main villain. That's what I want.
Totally set Galactus up the way they did Thanos. The one thing I would settle for, do a Fantastic Four movie that's a prequel to the others, to where it takes place before Infinity War and all that. And then on the DVD, have a bonus, like, deleted scene or a feature where you see them in the battle. That way you can say they were there. Screw you, Fox, or whoever messed that up for us.
No, I think what they're going to do, and again, I 100% would do an hour and a half talking about this crap. I think what they're going to do with both the mutants and the Fantastic Four is it's going to have to deal with the snap. And so, you know, they might have been in space during that Hulk snap or something. You know, they might have been studying something, and that's where they get hit with the oh crap, what's it called from Galactus and Silver Surfer, whatever that is.
The thing, I forgot.
Yeah, they get hit with a MacGuffin, and that's how they become the superheroes. Then they fly back down to Earth, and oh look, Stark Tower is for sale. Oh, we're going to buy it, and oh, by the way, now it's the Baxter Building. I think that's more likely to be the case of how they do it. That way, they don't have to retcon anything. They're not having to go back and say, "Oh no, they were really here all along," because they just didn't want to help you guys, Tony.
Yeah. All right, Disney, hire us.
Heartbeat. I will nerd out over everything, and if you want to make me read every comic book of the Fantastic Four, I will do it.
We'll bring Rob in for that one too.
Yes, yeah, Rob can come and hang out, but I mean, he would just fangirl over Captain America the whole time, so I don't know how much people will be getting done.
True. Well, we now have the stage set for a sequel episode to this one, so but for this,
the least listened to, because there's no other nerds are like, these Texas guys talking about nerd stuff.
Well, tune in next time when we incorporate Roger Krager into the MCU. It's going to be awesome.
Hey, I can make it work. I'm pretty sure I can.
Well, Adam, I appreciate you coming on the show today, and glad we were able to make this happen. Glad the Dixie Chickens have been able to keep running strong, and I, for one, am looking forward to being able to get through with this lockdown stuff, so I can get up there for a Freddy Burger or a Patty Melt for sure. Yeah, man. We invite everybody to come and hang out with us. You know, it's everybody is doing the safe stuff, social distancing. You know, we got waitresses, which is very strange at the Dixie Chicken. And of course, if you don't want to make it, we do have an online store. And by the time this airs, I think we'll have Dixie Chicken masks for you to buy too. So cool.
Check out store.dixiechicken.com, or you just check out the whole website. We've got stories from people from the 70s, 80s, 90s up to today, dixiechicken.com.
Awesome. Well, folks, there you have it. This has been episode 24 of Adam Drake. Y'all tune in next time when we have the quarterly inspection with AJ Gale, who, by the way, I'm going to tell him to put bacon on his next tea fries. But Adam, I appreciate you being here. Y'all have a good one.
All right. Thanks. You too.